Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. If you haven't joined us before, this is AgBiz Insights. My name's Brett Wilder. My colleague Colby Field and I are area extension educators with the University of Idaho, and we are the hosts of this program.
Hello, and thanks for joining us. In this series, we share programs and topics that are important to Idaho farmers and ranchers. We like to keep this presentation as conversational as possible. So if you have any questions, drop them in the chat, and we'll make sure that those get answered today.
We really appreciate and we'd like to welcome today's guest, Douglas McCarty. Doug is an Oregon cattle rancher and founder of Farmers Navigator, a website focused on helping farmers and ranchers make more informed decisions. His work centers on practical tools and ideas to support day-to-day operations and long-term sustainability. Before turning to agriculture, Douglas worked in law and finance in the US and overseas, and spent time in Korea as a Peace Corps volunteer and later as a Fulbright scholar. Today, he focuses on applying that experience in a way that's useful on the ground for working farms and ranches. Doug, while I pull up your presentation, can you tell us a little bit more about your site and why you built it?
Okay, thank you, Brett. Thank you, Colby. Um, this is a new thing for me, so I'm not that well versed at presenting, but everybody's got to start somewhere, so I'm starting here. Uh, we bought this ranch 12 years ago with no experience ranching, and so we've had to learn everything about ranching on our own. And about 3 years into the project, we started going to the USDA organizations, NRCS and FSA, to find out if there was any program that they could provide to us or that we could apply for to help us build fences and do some of the things that are so expensive on a ranch. The result of that was, I can say, probably 4 years of confusion, not because the agents didn't know exactly what they were doing, but because the material itself is so difficult to comprehend. And I think it's difficult to comprehend from a producer point of view. It's also a little difficult to present from an agent point of view. So for some strange reason, we decided that we would simplify this with a website that we named Farmers Navigator, so that a farmer or a rancher could navigate this government system and be better capable, better versed in everything that's out there. It's sort of a level playing field concept where we want to raise up the mid-sized to small-sized producers up to a level with the larger producers who have more resources and are basically more capable of navigating this stuff. So I think Brett has put up that first window there, and that's basically the story of what we did. We chose the name because we thought it made sense, and we can go to the next slide, and I'll tell you what it's all about. The problem that we see for other producers is that there is a certain amount of money on the table that they can have if they're ready to step up and go through the application process. And one thing that can keep people from going through the application process is just it's just reluctance to go deal with the complications of government. I know I felt like I was always burdening the NRCS or FSA people, because if I ever called them, I tried to remember what the program was all about, and it was pretty much a jumble in my head. So we created this program to cover the entire United States, all 50 states, every single county in those states, and all the federal programs that are out there, so that a producer, if he or she is interested, can go through the process. anyway, that's the goal, and I'll show you how we tried to solve it with the next picture. Brett, please. Okay, the 4 ways that the website works is we start with something called the pulse. And this is really, it's a dashboard, but we didn't want to use a common term. So we named it the pulse, in part because it's the pulse of your own ranch, your own operation. It's a personalized daily dashboard that keeps producers up to date on the most important things for farming or ranching on site. And that would be your weather, the water levels in local creeks for irrigation purposes, any deadlines that you may have for filing for programs, and the up-to-date information on droughts and disasters. The next thing that we provide is education, and that is it's education, but it's not education in the traditional sense. It's factual explanation of the programs that you might be interested in and that you might qualify for. And then we have action planning, which is pretty interesting. We'll get to that. And then an important thing, aspect that producers don't see, but is pretty important to them, is to support the agents at the USDA so that they can be working off the same program, and so that they can be dealing with producers who are up to date or up to speed on what they need to know. I was never up to speed when I went into the USDA offices. I was always kind of a basket case. So this would solve my problem. Next slide. I think we go through these things, one by one. So the pulse is your daily dashboard. What you do is you basically go to the pulse and you type in your zip code, and then you type in what kind of agriculture you're involved in, whether it's cattle or row crops or whatever, and it will provide you certain market-based data, and of course the weather data. Whatever device you type in on, if it's your phone, then whenever you go to the pulse, it will bring up your information and your farm name. You name your farm there. If you go in on 2 devices, then you'll have to retype in the information on, say, your home computer, so that it will bring it up there, because it only responds to the original device that you put it in on. So you'll have to put it in twice. We designed this for a couple reasons. One, we think it's quite valuable to the producer, but another is that it gets producers to come back to us and come back and see us on a daily basis, which is what we want. If all we had was an educational website, I think that we might lose a lot of producers who would be like me, who would say, well, I remember there was a site, but I can't quite remember what it was called. So this sort of brings everybody back and gets you current on your deadlines, program changes, any seasonal reminders. Next. Okay, the education aspect, the government documents, government programs, they're basically written by people in rooms somewhere. And I think it's possible that they have some farming experience, but it's also possible that they don't, that they simply are people who work for the government at some level. So the information there is not readily available. So what we decided to do was present in plain English lots of big picture information, the sort of information that begins, well, this is really how it works, and then how they stack and interact, and how the producer fits into this whole thing, and then a lot of granular detail, because these programs require a lot of granular understanding and actually granular acting on the part of the producer. So you look at something like Equip, which is extremely popular and fairly understandable, but still takes a fair amount of understanding. So we wrote this out in fairly good form, and the same thing for CSP. And for me, one of my favorites is one I still don't understand, which is crop insurance, because we raise cattle and we don't intuitively understand crop insurance. But for people who do raise crops, this is an excellent refresher of all the subject matter of crop insurance, the mechanics, and why I think anybody who raises a row crop is definitely going to want to have a crop insurance program of some sort going on. Whether that means that there'll be years when they don't do any crop insurance because they're really comfortable with the weather, or there's always sort of an adjustment to be made. I'm not sure, but that's because I don't raise row crops. Some explanation of the FSA loan types, terms, and of course, beginning farmers, which is somebody who in the system has been farming for 10 years or less. They get specific advantages to help them go. One thing I would bring up, because often we find that producers are a little reluctant to either get involved with the government because they don't want to be getting a government handout, or they don't want the government to be in their business. I would just say if you pay taxes, and if you have a carryover loss from one year to the next, I'm sure that you would file for your carryover loss deduction in the second or third year, because that's really your money. In the same way, I think these programs are really yours to apply for. And so I'd encourage people to get involved with these programs and understand what might help them, because it's your money out there. Okay, next. All right. So now you've got your pulse, and you've checked your pulse, and maybe you or your spouse has said, I noticed that there's this thing that we could do, and then you go get educated on it, and then you say, well, what now? I think I'd like to do it. Well, we have a screener program where you once again sort of lop in all your information, and it will go through and see what kind of programs you might be interested in, and it then prepares you for the kind of information, kind of documents you'll need to gather, what you can expect, and then how the applications are evaluated. Every state, and I think even locales within states, have different emphases on what's important. I know in Eastern Oregon, there's the sage grouse, and so if your activity in fencing has some benefit to sage grouse habitat, that's pretty important. Over here in Western Oregon, we have almost wholesale destruction of the native white oak habitat, which has been disastrous for the animals. And so they would like to get farmers, ranchers like me, to reinstate oak savanna or oak woodland. And those are quite interesting programs, because they also coincide with trimming back forests, taking some of the softwoods out, emphasizing the hardwoods, the oak habitat, which also has this very nice function of increasing silvopasture and meadow pasture size. So that's pretty good. In the final thing, item number 3 on this slide, we have a section where it's almost like a script, where it says, here's what you need to put together, and here's what you need to say, what you need to bring, what questions you need to ask. It's not really telling you what you need to memorize, but if you think about these things, it will create the correct mindset to go to the government and go to the agent, so that you so that you're basically saying things that they can understand instead of like flopping around like I did. Brett, next, please. Okay, so here's what the producers will see. And this is just a couple of slides to show you what the program looks like for eQuip and then for the ARC PLC election calculator. It's not completely easy to understand even in a plain English version, but at least you have a shot at it. That's what I like to say. All right, next, please. This a shared framework for producers and agents, I think, is one of the real values that the program brings, because this is a way of presenting information and getting producers up to speed, and also getting a documentation series that the agents can understand, so that both sides are literally, and I mean literally, you can't often say this in life, but they're literally on the same page. So you've got the actual script, and then the agents know that you're coming in with the actual script, and they say, yeah, that's reasonable. I expect them to have these things, and they're on the same page. And in fact, the screener presents or will create a 5-page PDF file with everything that you've put in there, and that you can take to the office, or you could actually attach it to an email and send it to the office and say, here's where we are. Can we meet next Tuesday to discuss it? The net benefit to this in terms of the bottom line for the agents is that they can take meetings which might have taken 45 minutes to an hour, and those can be cut way down into a 10-minute or a 15-minute meeting, or even a meeting that takes place entirely by phone, with the follow-up meeting for the signing of documents, either to be done by the email sign protocols or whatever they're called, or a quick stop in the office to sign documents on your way shopping somewhere. So I think this is it brings the producers up to speed, and it also can save the agents a lot of time, so they could deal with 20 or 25 people during a day rather than maybe 4 or 6. All right, next, please. So this is kind of a recap. The producer journey is, every day you spend time with your sticky pulse. You wander over to the educational functions every once in a while, we hope, maybe with your spouse over the kitchen table at night. You can use the screener to sort of figure out where you might be, maybe imagine a program that you could get to help improve your irrigation lines, or your fencing, or your creek fencing off, or wells. I think there are even programs where you can defray the cost of a well and a solar pump. You can prepare yourself for the meeting and go to a meeting confident that you're really kind of on the right track, and then you arrive at the meeting, and there you are. There's no guarantees that you're going to get what you apply for, because that again is an application process and an evaluation process that's sort of out of our hands. But at the very least, you go into this meeting and you're as well prepared as you can be, which is better than otherwise, I've always found. All right, next slide. All right, we're getting near the end, and I think we've kind of gone through it in record time. We have the platform. We would like to get input as we scale. We have gotten the program out to Oregon and Idaho so far. When you bring something new to people, you don't always get a quick response from them. But at the end of this week, we plan on rolling it out to the other 48 states, probably with a link to this YouTube interview. But we'd love to get any of your input. See what you think works, what you think could be made better, what you think is terrible. We're open to everything. And that, I think, we might be, yeah, that's our mission. So we can open it up to questions if anybody has any, and I'll try to answer them.
Yeah, thank you, Doug. And while Colby's checking to see if there's any immediate questions, I know we're also planning to drive through the website here. And certainly, I know when you first called me about this, I was pretty excited about it because anything that can save producers time is usually a valuable tool. And these are time-consuming things to go through. I know it's a new site. Do you have any success stories or things you can share about producers who've been using the site?
No, not yet. I know I've gotten, like your reaction, I've gotten very good feedback from people. I just think it's so new that that's gonna wait. We did get one inquiry from NRCS, an agent who wanted to nail down our discussion of CSP, and so sent an email to us, and then I sent an email back saying let's have a phone call if it's unclear. And I haven't heard from him since then, so I assume that it just clarified it then. What we could do with people there is have people just go to farmersnavigator.com on their own computer, open up a window, and click on that orange button that says Pulse, and it will prompt you to set up your farm. You don't have to use your real farm if you're nervous. You can make up a farm. You can call it Snow White's Village Farm. You can put in animals or crops that you don't raise, but you should put in your own zip code, because that will give you all the information that you need for, or that you can recognize for your own site.
So Doug, we've got the site up here. My question is, should we start with the pulse button or should we start at start here?
I think you start with, I think the most interesting thing for your producers right now is just to start with Pulse, and then we can go back to start here. Yeah, here. You go to Pulse, you type in your zip code. Yeah, I mean, you can, shall we follow you? Follow the bouncing ball, I guess.
Well, I know we've got some Magic Valley folks on the call, so I'm going to go ahead and put a Twin Falls zip code in here, which would be 83301.
What do they raise in Magic Valley?
Oh, you could have row crops, you could have dairy, you could have cattle, you could have a mixed operation for sure.
Well, you're on your computer. Why don't you this will be your dream ranch.
Well, so if we go to Twin Falls County and we say we've got a mixed operation, I'm automatically seeing here there's quite a bit of information about what's going on with weather and prices. I've got a notification here that if I'm interested in CRP, I've got 4 days left. I better get after it. And it's letting me know when all these other signups are, SDRP, acreage reporting, when the PRF fall signups are, what the enrollment due date is, shows me where drought is.
Yep.
Pulling in data from CME, but also some USDA sites on most recent. I'm guessing these are just whatever the most recent report has for each of these things.
Right. I think that's the way they work. We do not. I think we have the data updated a couple of times a day, I think, and then we for Monday's data, Monday or over the weekend, the data is simply the closing data on Friday. So it'll just bounce through it, and then through Monday morning, it'll still be Friday's data for a little while. It's I don't know. I think if somebody is working off moment by moment, second by second data, they probably will want to get a dedicated data source. But this sort of shows you where hay and alfalfa is, where corn, soybeans, wheat, feeder cattle, live cattle, all that kind of stuff is.
It definitely looks like a great snapshot. And over here on the left, with it helps you know what reports are coming up, at least the majors, and then also helps you think about programs you might not be familiar with. Colby,
Right.
is there anything here that stands out to you?
I mean, I like the deadline piece at the top for those programs. I find that to be a really good reminder, as well as, open dates for these programs. I myself, in, my professional work, have to look for these dates for stuff when I'm looking at them. So having that all together is a really handy piece.
Great.
And then just a snapshot of all the major commodities is a nice piece to have available too, to sort of get a maybe not as minute by minute precise, but a general overview of the big picture of what's going on in those prices. So I really like this dashboard quite a bit.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys have done a nice job, Doug. And I know again, one of the reasons I was really excited to have you on, and this has improved even since the first time I know I looked at it when you reached out. A lot of these programs, if you don't think about it all the time, you don't always know what's out there and available. I think there's a lot of dollars that get left on the table. Um, I I really like some of the other stuff you have too. Should we go through setting up an operation through your Start Here button?
Sure. Let me just say about Pulse, though, is that it's an interesting thing to go from raising cattle to putting together a dashboard that would be interesting to producers. And you've only got a tiny little piece of real estate, and we've been sort of working. This is probably now we're on about the 30th iteration of just making subtle decisions about how much geography is given to this, how much is to that, what kind of colors we use. We don't have a professional. We've never used a professional design person, so I guess I'm the professional design person. And what I do is I imagine myself as a farmer in Montana or Wyoming or Nebraska or someplace, and I try to imagine him and his wife looking at something like this, and I want stuff to make sense, and yet make sense at a subconscious level, so it doesn't call attention to itself. It's just like, oh yeah, here it is. I will note that there's a daily briefing in your mailbox every morning. That's something that we just added, and that is to we want to make this available to people however they get their information. So we think, young people like you and Colby might think, oh, we just flip out the smartphone. But older people like me, it's like, well, I don't really like to look at my phone all the time. I like to check my computer live on the computer. And then other people would say, well, I'll check my email. That's how I like to see it. So we're trying to reach everybody in the way they might like it. So we're going to send this. You can get it now. Actually, it's live already. We're sending the briefing, but eventually we'll be adding some more information to the daily briefing that's not anywhere else. It'll be probably a summary of an article that I've written, or some bit of information, or something, a short summary of an educational part, so that over time, if you do get your information through the email and you do kind of scroll down and sort of look at this, a producer will become versed in the entire area of Farmer's Navigator. And I always think that's a good thing. I mean, if you're in the agricultural business, the more stuff you know, the better off you are. You can't, even if you're a rancher like me, it's a good thing for me to understand crop insurance, because that's a question of risk evaluation. And I've got risk too. I just don't have crop insurance to deal with it. I've got other things I can use. So, I mean, that's sort of my last advertisement for the Pulse. But we're quite happy with the way it turned out, the way it looks. And I appreciate that you guys immediately honed in on some of the really key stuff there. And I think every producer will once they try it out for a ride. Let's go over to some other place you like.
Sounds good, Doug. And before we pull off the Pulse page, since we were talking about the morning briefing, I'll bring up a feature that I really like. Underneath here, it says free. And I think what you and I have discussed is even though this is a fantastic resource, you spent a lot of time on it. Your plan is that this is going to stay free for producers. Is that correct?
Oh, it'll always be free for producers. It'll be free for the government unless they force us to take a check because it's so valuable. But it's what we've built is something that's free, because the one thing I've learned in 12 years as a cattle rancher is that the way you make money in agriculture is you drive your inputs down to zero. You try to make sure your input costs are as close to zero as possible. So no, this is free stuff, and we're just happy to provide it. And we're also very grateful to our local NRCS and FSA people who were so patient with me through my time of trouble.
Fantastic. I think that's a great point is trying to keep inputs down. I think we should go to your start here button. That's where I've
Sure.
gotten so far. And it looks like we can choose that we are either starting from scratch, we've been ranching for years, already run a successful operation. We do stalkers and backgrounders, row crop and grain, or dairy, or even some situations where we're taking over the family operation, have a succession timeline, or even what to do after a disaster. And so that's really a great starting point. I'm going to guess all of these take you through a little different path.
Sure. Why don't you just click on taking over the family operation? That's it's kind of fun. We tried to put in stuff, and I think we've got scenarios here, and I was an English major in college, and I like storytelling, and I think I learn best by reading stories, and then you kind of imagine yourself in the place of the person in the story. So scenarios are a very good way to understand how the world works. But go ahead, look at this.
Great. Yeah, that's a great way to do this is just look at examples. And here we've got a very specific example. We've got an operator with a 1,200 acre cattle ranch in Oregon, 250 head of cattle on a mixed owned and leased rangeland, doing some 300 acres of pasture, but has a juniper issue and is a beginning farmer with within that first 10 years of benefits as a beginning farmer. And so that gives your site outlines based on that scenario. Maybe there's some equip cost share that we should be thinking about. Maybe there's a 50% on advanced payments, dedicated funding pools, bonus rankings. And I think it's a great example. And as you said on your PowerPoint presentation, this is not a guarantee, but certainly those are things that based on this environment, that individual would be eligible for. Is that what
Eligible to apply. Yeah, that's
eligible to apply?
basically that's what we can do. Um,
Perfect. Um, yeah, great examples here. You have an infrastructure picture. What is the cost? If you go ahead and do it while you're a young beginning farmer, you 90% cost share versus the standard at 75%. Encouraging folks to apply while they're a beginning farmer rather than waiting and what that cost difference is. I think that's really valuable. And then you go through here and you talk through all the different your site talks through all the programs. It explains what equip is. It explains FSA operating lines, looks at CSP programs. I'm going to open this button in a new tab because I thought this was a really cool tool you guys have put together. I was looking at PRF insurance and rainfall analysis. And then looking at over 5 years, the total value, potential value would be somewhere in the ballpark of $300,000.
right. Yeah. It's just it's funny because the normal buzz that you hear in any agricultural Facebook conversation or Reddit or anything is, we don't have a chance, we can't do anything. But really, there's lots of programs here that can help you. So let's have all the producers knowledgeable, up to speed about these things, and see what they can do. I would encourage them to, use the site to sign up for a pulse, and then we're going to try our best to make it your daily habit through the email links and discussions, to get fully versed on a rolling basis for all these programs.
Excellent. Yeah, and I really like you've got a potential timeline here where you talk about how it can take months and years through this process in terms of what you're doing in the time frame. And this specific one was about succession, so you've got some possible wrinkles that could happen here based on that scenario, and some issues about what could go wrong in terms of poor records or trying to do everything at once or not understanding the clock. And so I really think that was a great example to run through just in terms of what's here. But I think now, where would I go through if I wanted to put information out? Where's that PDF output we were talking about?
Oh, that's in the screener at the top. Go to screener and try to remember Maria's. Yeah, we're gonna put her in. I don't know. You can put her in Idaho or New Mexico or wherever she was.
Let's go ahead and we'll keep using that mixed. She was in Oregon, but let's go ahead.
Oh, right. She was Madras, Oregon, not New Mexico. Yeah.
And that would have been probably mostly cattle operation.
Right. Hers was a cattle. Was 200 to 500 acres, I think.
Or 200, yeah, I think 200 to 500 head and 50 to 500 acres.
Yeah.
It had been less than 4 years for that individual.
Right. Less than 4 years.
And I believe it was mixed of owned and leased.
Yeah. How many acres did we put in? Yeah, we'll call it mixed, owned, and leased. This is all, very academic anyway. She's not currently enrolled in any of these. Yeah.
Great.
Now, what are we interested in?
And what would you improve if money was no option? Well, if somebody else is paying for it. Let's click all of these and see what comes up.
Yeah, I would only click 5 of them, but yeah, go ahead.
While we're doing the run through, and then have you experienced any losses? Let's say yes, because that should trigger the stuff that will come up if that's the option. And let's say I don't have a number with FSA. And just going through that screener tool, you now have looks like I can get an action packet.
Yeah, let's get the action packet. Yeah, there you go. So this is going to be a printable 5-page document.
Talks about need to get a farm number.
Right.
Talks about where the potential items are, possibly with equip, maybe with some FSA, which those are loans and not necessarily grants or cost shares, but disaster assistance, potentially CRP, and livestock risk management. And I really think, Doug, you guys have done a nice job for somebody that's never done this before to sit down and see where to start.
Yeah.
Colby, what do you think about all this so far?
I like the way that screener allows you to break down your experience and your priorities and get this customizable output. And I like that the scenarios are realistic and relatable from the ones that I've looked through in addition to the one we just went through. So that's a really nice, almost case study view of it to sort of relate your own situation. And I've looked through fairly extensively the grains piece because that's more my background and found that to be really applicable.
Wonderful.
Great, thank you. Yeah, we're very lucky that we have a combination of some technical experience and then some ranching experience. So we kind of know what's important to people. And I know from a slightly different background that the way people learn things is often through some sort of a sympathetic story that you can identify with, and you say, "Okay, yeah, I understand this." And then this thing at the end, you got when you call NRCS, it's got this whole checklist of stuff you need to have, and then what you're supposed to say, notes you're supposed to take. And you just print this thing out and then go over it, and maybe you run it through again. I mean, maybe you say, well, I think I'll run the screener through again because I don't really need buildings. What we need to focus on is the important things. We need fences, we need water, and we need brush management, that kind of thing. You say, okay, well, let's go do that. Let's see what it looks like then. You can go through as many iterations as you want. It's all free. It doesn't cost you anything.
Fantastic. Yeah, and you talked about a script in your presentation. It looks like this is where you find that
Right.
script is going through the screener, um, what questions to ask, boxes to check, and then you've got some note-taking pages here, as well as even a follow-up checklist.
Yep.
Uh, Silence is normal. That's a great note. Um, as people get stuff done, and what are these other things that you need to do? And a great note here about do not start your work until that
Yeah.
contract is signed.
Yeah. Yeah. One rule above all others. And then a follow-up thing like, hey, stay with it. Don't say this process is worthless because you didn't get funded in your first year. Say, go back and say, well, okay, I'd like to try again. It's what the programs are made for, actually, is for people who keep working through them. And I found that NRCS staff and FSA staff are just super, super people to work with. Uh, Even if you're incompetent like I was, if you're competent, I can only imagine they'll be even better to work with.
Absolutely. Well, and just going down to the list, there's some key contacts here, and so it talks about where to go, some of those key deadlines, and then what each program is able to pay for. And so I really like that you've got all this stuff in here. And again, I would love to hear about some producer stories once some folks have used this information and actually taken printouts to offices. It sounds like it's still new enough. You don't quite have any of those stories just yet. Is that correct?
No, we're rolling it out. I would be surprised, to be honest. I'd be surprised if we had very many producers using it yet. You guys are here at the birth of the project. So let's get the word out and get them to use it. That's what it's there for.
And so there's your packet. There's a couple other tabs here we haven't gone through yet. So just to go through stuff real quick. If I go on your programs tab, you talked about having some guides and walkthroughs. I'm guessing that's what's here.
Right.
And so if you want to know all about equip, there's a guide. If you want to know all about CSP, there's a guide. If you want to know all about CRP, there's a guide.
You might open one of those up because these little boxes look fairly small, but when you open them up, there are, it's a full, it's not too much information, but it's the amount of information you need, and it's a fair amount. I mean, it begins with a summary and then it goes into, really good granular detail on everything.
Fantastic. Yeah, it looks like, and I'm just going to kind of scroll through here so folks on the call can see, but it talks about what it is, eligibility, what makes you a priority applicant, what makes you not eligible, and talks about what it's able to pay. And then a real dollar example looks like this is fencing and watering and brush management,
Yeah.
spring development, heavy use area protection, cover crops, high tunnels, nutrient management. And so really significant in terms of some options and opportunities for folks that maybe haven't thought about this. Now, and we've kind of talked about this a little bit, Doug. As I look at this, you see the grant, you probably shouldn't get so excited about what the options are and expect to, here on April 13th, be able to apply and get a grant to use for something this crop cycle. You're probably looking a year out. Would you agree?
I don't know. That's not something that we can actually tell. I don't. It will depend on how much funding is available, and I don't know if the funding is state by state or just the whole country, or it's the mystery of faith, I think, there. So, but I do know that these programs worked. I mean, I've done EQIP and CREP on my land, and I'm about to apply for some more EQIP fencing. One thing I'll say to producers is, whatever your rent, and producers know this, whatever your place is, it can be improved. And the thing that's holding almost everybody back from improving their land and doubling its value in terms of agricultural quality and output is the money it costs to build fences and put in water lines, put in bridge, creek crossings and stuff like that. It's only gotten worse. When I started 12 years ago, you could get a bale of woven wire fence, good quality, red brand, for about $170, $160. And last time I looked, it was in the low $300 a bale. So, and that's only 330 feet. So you've just doubled the cost of your welded, your woven wire, and then you've doubled the cost of your T-posts, and your labor has probably tripled if you can even find it. So these programs really, really help.
Yeah, great comment to go through a guide there, and just to scroll through what the other guides are. You've got guides on federal crop insurance, whole farm revenue protection, livestock insurance, LRP and PRF, predator loss compensations. There's things about getting started with capital and first steps with FSA loans and advantages of being a beginning farmer, and how can you stack programs together? What can you do with these tools for succession planning? And just some other general guides about preconditioning programs, public land grazing. And I know, and I think it's important for our audience, these are our guides. They're not all inclusive. There may be some things that you may be eligible for that are not here. There may be some things here that you're not eligible for. But I really do believe this is a great place to start. I clicked earlier on a tool, which was your PRF index tool. And so this is a really common one, especially for our rangeland folks or anybody in the forage industry or the livestock industry. And so
Right.
you've got an example here of how pasture rangeland forage insurance works, and talks about how to use the tool. And you've even got a screener here. So if I want to go down to Idaho, and let's say I want to do, we've done a couple Twin Falls examples. Let me pull a Canyon County example, and I'll just choose a grid. You've got the map to find your grid, and talks about what coverage levels mean. And then you've actually got it here where it will pull based on what months out of all the years of rainfall data that we have, how often that set of months triggered. Because as folks that have used this insurance tool know, and we won't get too far in the weeds on any specific tool, but you choose a 2-month window. And so here you've got out of 78 years, how often that actually triggered and paid that producer, rather than just being an indemnity pay, rather than just being an insurance cost to you actually receiving that indemnity.
Right. Yeah. I was really happy to see that we could do this, because we started out saying, well, okay, you got the federal information and you got the state information, and county, that's pretty good. But this one goes down to the sections, and it really is. If this thing gets triggered, has been triggered 70% of the time, or 70 times, or 70% of the time in the last 7 to 8 years, and four sections over, it was only 58% of the time, then you say, okay, well, this section's kind of a section I'd like to insure. I don't know. I was just like I said, I'm not a crop insurance. I don't have the crop insurance mindset myself, and I have never done the PRF thing, even though we have animals. On the other hand, we're in Western Oregon where drought is kind of interesting, but it's not as deadly as I think it might be in those bigger western states like Montana and Idaho, and in part because our ranches are also much smaller. My place is only 340 acres, but it's a relatively decent sized cattle ranch because we have so much rain, we have so much grass. To run this number of cattle, you probably need, that 1,200, 1,500 acre spread over there in Madras to run 150 head of cattle or something. But yeah, we're so happy to get this thing as good as we can at this point, and we'll keep improving it. But we're comfortable enough with it now. We think it's probably 99% of the way there. We're happy to have people use it and get some benefit, and send us information if they think there's a way we can improve it.
And my understanding, Doug, is you've also been in contact with some insurance folks and gotten feedback, and the general consensus is that these are some pretty solid decision tools that you have available here.
Yeah, I've had some good feedback from the crop insurance brokerage people. I've had excellent feedback from ranchers, the sort of the what I would call the rancher group, and by that I mean Stockman Grass Farmer, who's doing a couple of articles on us, and they think that this will be good, and it'll certainly be good for us to get the coverage and get more people interested in at least looking at these tools and making a decision whether they want to sort of put it on their phone or their computer and try it out for a ride. Um, and
Absolutely.
you guys are great. I mean, we're so grateful to Idaho for being the second one to step up after the home state of Oregon. And I think you guys have done more because they haven't done a Zoom meeting for us yet, but I think they might as soon as they see this one.
Very good. Well, and I think there's a couple things here we haven't gone through yet, so let's just look at them.
Sure.
So we can start at the state level, and you've actually got data pulled in here where it talks about what's the Idaho program guide. So some quick stats pulled out of probably NAS, or maybe census data, and then quite a few uh, programs listed here, all the different possible programs, or a majority of them at the very least, in terms of who you can talk to, and then links to guides. So you can start at your state level and walk through what is available. You've got phone numbers for different offices, and you've also got some other things here about maybe you can go to soil and water conservation districts. Maybe you can go
Right.
to range resource commissions. Maybe you can go to your other conservation districts. And
Yeah,
so I think,
those entities often will fill a portion of the subsidized cost of things like fences and if it fits within their program. So NRCS may cover 50%, and one of those bureaus will cover 25%, and that's how you get up to your 75%. Yeah, it's great, and it's good to know the local people because they're also in the business of trying to help people through their programs. Uh,
fantastic. And you've even got down to county level phone numbers, addresses for service centers. So I think that's a great service you provide in terms of just being able to find who to talk to.
yeah,
And then I don't know if we clicked on the tools tab yet.
let's go see the tools.
And so here we link to Pulse, and then also link to some of the other programs that we found on the programs page. Um, and also it looks like some additional pieces, conservation planning tools, some guides related to equip and grazing, some break-even calculators. And so I do think if you're somebody on this call and you're trying to decide, is there somewhere I can go that's not university, that's not owned by somebody, that's not hidden behind a paywall? I really believe what Doug's put together here is a great tool. Um, we've got a little time left. Colby, is there something else that you think we should go through here? Do you have some questions, things you think we should talk about?
I mean, the main question at the front of my mind, Doug, is looked at this from a producer perspective, which is your target audience here, but as sort of agricultural support, government agents, insurance people, what is your vision for the use of this tool for that audience group as opposed to producers?
Well, I think that the government agents, uh, I would love to have our status be an official partner to FSA or NRCS, so that those agents could say, oh yeah, this is part of our program too. We can direct uh, uh, producers to use this, and then we can have these conversations which are going to track the same way going forward. It's going to be, we're going to start from the same point, and at the point they come into our office, I will know where they are and they will know where they are, and we can just take care of it very efficiently there. um, I don't know that we're there yet, but I'm going to do my best to raise consciousness in the agencies to use this, because I don't think that there's anything like this out there. For uh, crop insurance, that's a whole different beast. There's these giant crop insurers who sell. I think there's 6 or 8 of them or something, and then they sell their product through individual brokers. Uh, and then the brokers are kind of responsible for educating uh, producers as to how to go about this, because even if you're a row crop farmer, even if you bought crop insurance before, uh, it might be intuitive and it might not be. You might need a reminder. You might be worried much more about uh, getting your tractor fixed, getting your lines plowed, getting your irrigation line fixed, getting a contractor to come out and do the work for you to get your beet field or your soy field plowed and planted, than you are about. And it might slip your mind that this financial uh, thing is so important, and you might even have skipped it for a year or two and gotten away with it. That's the way insurance often works, is that most of us could probably drive for you know 15 years out of 20 and never have an accident. So hey, why do we need car insurance? Uh, but I think that's kind of the way it is. I would love to have I would love for this to help agents interface with producers and have a more satisfactory process. That's it. And for producers, I just think it'll make them smarter, make them better versed, and if they can get some of these programs going in their favor, it'll make their farms better. So
Wonderful. Well, I think that's a great pitch for what this is, and certainly, you know, glad to have you as part of the AgBiz Insights program. Anything that we can show to producers that might be a tool that saves them time, might be a tool that saves them money or adds value to their operation. I think this is certainly fits the bill. Colby, do you have any final things that you'd like to add here?
Doug, I'm impressed at the amount of disparate information and tools that your team has put together in this tool, because there's a lot of stuff in here that's you have to know where to find it, take some searching, and it's all in one place and in a pretty concise and easily understandable method. So I commend you on that effort.
well, thank you both. Thank you for helping us in the rollout. We couldn't do it without you, and I mean that sincerely. It's a very interesting process to start something brand new, not have any profile at all, and try to go out and get people to learn about it. But if we do, it'll be because of you guys and probably the next group of extension people who say, well, this is something we can get behind. I hope we can all get behind it. I think that's good. And at my age, at my advanced age, I'm happy to be doing something positive and paying it forward, which is kind of what you think of when you have not only kids but grandkids. You guys will reach that point someday, and then they say, "Oh yeah, I remember that old guy talked about that." So
Awesome. Well, and Doug, really, thank you very much. And for those of you that are on this webinar, there should be a very brief survey that pops up when we end it. Please take that, provide us some feedback. And as always, if there are other topics you believe that we should be talking about, other programs you've seen that are valuable for producers, we'd like to know about them and we'd like to have them on our platform. So thank you all. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Colby, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
great, thanks.